Hello, and welcome to Historical Humans Reads, where we take primary sources and bring them to your screen. I'm Colum Coleman, and today we are reading from Motel of the Mysteries by David Macaulay. Motel of the Mysteries is a satirical recounting of an archaeological excavation, which, taking place some 2,000 years in the future, mistakes a motel room for a sacred burial site. Published in 1979, Motel of the Mysteries provides a lighthearted and comedic examination of cultural misinterpretation, a very real concern faced by archaeologists and historians the world over. By using his own culture of the late 20th century, Macaulay was able to outline the pitfalls of assumption and misidentification so clearly that his work is often employed to train budding archaeologists against such errors. Today we'll be reading the opening pages of The Motel of the Mysteries, condensed version by David Macaulay. Well, with that, let's begin. It is the year 4022, and an intrepid archaeologist has just discovered the buried ruins of a 20th century motel. What will be his startling and wholly erroneous conclusion about American civilization? In 2008, a cataclysmic coincidence extinguished virtually all forms of life on the North American continent. On the morning of November 29, an accidental substance called third and fourth class mail buried the North American continent under tons of brochures, flyers, and small containers called free. That afternoon, impurities in the air finally succumbed to the force of gravity and collapsed on what was left of the already stunned population. In less than a day, the most advanced civilization of an ancient world perished. The layers of pollutantus literati and pollutantus gravitas that covered the continent hardened into rock, and knowledge of the lost civilization vanished almost entirely. The picture of these fascinating people remained incomplete until 40 years ago, when word leaked out of Howard Carson's startling discovery at the Motel of the Mysteries in an area called USA. Before his 42nd birthday, Howard Carson had accomplished nothing of consequence aside from a number of visionary experiments relating to increased camel hump productivity. In 4022, a restless Carson entered the 116th Cross-Continental North American Catastrophe Memorial Marathon. Well behind the rest of the pack, he found himself crossing rubble along the edge of a deserted excavation site. The ground below his feet suddenly gave way. He tumbled headlong downward. When the dust had settled, he found himself at the bottom of an ancient shaft, facing the entrance of a long-forgotten tomb. Light from the shaft caught the area around the handle on the tomb door. Upon closer inspection, Carson discovered that the sacred seal, which was traditionally placed upon the door following burial rites, was still in place. Thunderstruck, he realized he was on the threshold of history. The mysterious burial customs of the late North Americans were finally to be revealed. Shortly thereafter, Carson and a dedicated group of volunteers prepared to enter the tomb. The creaking of the ancient hinges cut through the silence like the scream of a fleeing spirit. As the blanket of darkness was stripped away from the treasures within, Carson's mouth fell open. Everywhere was the glint of plastic. "Can you see anything, Howard?" the others immediately asked in unison. "Yes," he replied. "Wonderful things." So it was that Carson began the first of 7 years' work on the excavation of the Motel of the Mysteries complex and on the removal and recording of treasures from Tomb 26. Everything in the outer chamber faced the magnificent great altar, including the body of the deceased, which still lay atop the ceremonial platform. In its hand was the sacred communicator, and around its wrist was a flexible golden band bearing an image similar to that of the altar. Although it was capable of communication with the large number of gods, the altar seems to have been intended primarily for communication with the gods Mouvier and Mouvier. Judging by the impact marks on the tops and sides of the upper altar, some aspect of this communication was dependent upon pounding the surface. Below the exquisite glass face of the upper altar were a number of sealed spaces for offerings. Signs of the ancient burial ritual were everywhere. A variety of garments, including the ceremonial chest plate and 2 pairs of shoes, one of them highly ornate, were scattered about. Various containers which had once held libations and offerings stood on the altar and around the platform. A statue of the deity Wat, who represented eternal companionship and enlightenment, stood next to the platform. To ensure maximum comfort during eternal life, several pieces of beautifully crafted furniture were placed in the room. Perhaps the single most important article was the ice. This container was designed to preserve, at least symbolically, the major internal organs of the deceased for all eternity. The ceilings were covered in intricate mosaics, each decorated with a series of parallel perforations, with color added by applying the occasional and always subtle watermark. Aware that 2 pairs of shoes implied a double burial, and having seen only one body, Carson began searching for another chamber, and soon found the entrance to what became known as the inner chamber. This has been an excerpt from Motel of the Mysteries on Historical Humans Reads. If you enjoyed this video and would like to hear more excerpts from original texts, please subscribe to be notified of the next one. If there's work you would like to hear, be sure to like this video and leave a comment listing it below. Thank you for listening.